I don't think I understand any of that.
What didn't you understand? It's pretty simple.
Like what? What's simple about it? Like,
he was at the opera because he had to stop the villain from getting the time entropy inversion device.
okay, what does that mean though?
What does that mean? It just means, you know, it just, entropy just says that time is basically a straight line because an object's entropy can't increase. It's the second law of thermodynamics.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
When you consider quantum physics, then time inversion and going backwards in timeline is possible.
No, it's not possible. There's no way.
Scott, you just don't understand it. It's 100% possible. It's clean science.
No, it's not. You know what? I'm gonna give you a month to figure it out, okay? A month. When we go to Banff for our camping trip, you'll be inverted, okay?
Challenge accepted. Won't be a problem at all.
Oh my gosh, guys, you're never gonna believe it. He's actually done it. He's actually done it. Believe it. Check this out. Oh my gosh, guys, he's done it. He's actually done it. He's gone inverted. Check it out. Wow, he did it. There was no way I could ever believe that that was possible. There's no way. But there we have it. Matthew cracked the code and got to experience the Canadian Rockies with its vibrant fall colors completely inverted. Tell you what though, I think I had the better deal after hiking 35 kilometers and climbing 1,500 meters in 2 days. I was beat during this final hike, and I can't imagine how sore Matthew would be over the next few days doing all of this inverted. I guess I should say I did take some photos from this trip, so make sure to stick around as I go over a few of my favorite compositions of the trip.
Well, even though Matthew was inverted, we made it to this beautiful, beautiful spot in the Canadian Rockies. Waiting for sunset. Hopefully things kind of clear off a little bit. It's been pretty cloudy. I don't know if you can see it around me, probably not. But it's been very cloudy. We've actually had rain a couple times. So it's been kind of off and on. When it's been sunny though, it's been beautiful. We've got, honestly, probably a couple hours, maybe an hour until sunset. I'm not sure, there's no service, so I didn't really confirm sunset times. So not good planning. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I'm gonna show you guys kind of what I got set up while we wait. So let's jump into that right now. Okay, so this is the scene. We have this creek that winds around, and it's really framing this really, really prominent mountain. You can see it there. The thing I like about this scene, as opposed to many of the others I've seen from this area, which is in the meadows back over there, all the fall colors here are really popping. We got larch in here, which are really nice. Some of these bushes in here have some nice fall foliage, and so it really kind of sets a really nice scene. Okay, so we have prominent mountain right here, and then all the foliage and stuff here. The creek winds around, kind of leads the eye, frames the mountain nicely. It was fairly tricky trying to get these trees not to go over top of the mountain here, and then this little guy over here, I had a big debate in my mind whether or not I included him or not. So if I tone this down, you can see the outline of the mountain there. Trees don't go over top. Nice clean ridge line. Foreground's pretty nice. Nice fall foliage. So yeah, we're gonna see how this goes.
Boo! Pick a plot line. Come on. Seriously, waste my time like that? How dare you? Honestly, 2 thumbs down, 2 of them. Oh, so mad. You know, buddy, I'm gonna hit that dislike button. I'm gonna hit it twice. Didn't like that video at all. Hit it twice, that'll show him. Well guys, if you made it this far, I definitely applaud you. It's been a bit of a weird video.
A lot of fun to make, but I do want to provide those photographers out there with some value in this video. So I want to walk through the 4 compositions that I really enjoyed from this trip, including the one that I left you guys with kind of unfinished. So the reason for that, just quick excuse, there was very little light, less for mere seconds, and I basically focused that entire time on the photography. I didn't really want to introduce video into that simply for that reason, and because there was a lot of grizzly activity in that area the weeks coming up to the trip and even afterwards. And so high bear country with no one else around for 15-20 kilometers, my friend and I really didn't feel comfortable introducing more kind of chaos into that already tense kind of environment. So want to stay bear aware, focus on the photography, and just get out as soon as we could. So really that was the focus. And so what I do want to do right now is go through those compositions, walk through some of my ideas around the visual flow of those and how they kind of work or don't work. So let's jump on the computer right now. Okay, this is the first photograph I want to show you guys. Full disclosure, this sky here is completely replaced. The sky we got that night, well, it was nice. There was some color in it. It just didn't really feel like it helped the image at all. It more or less just subtracted from it. It wasn't soft, there was a lot of contrast. And so I didn't like that. It didn't really help this soft, kind of almost 2-dimensional flat image. So I changed the sky to something that was taken in the Rockies a little longer ago, obviously, but the light was exactly the same. As in the light came from over here behind us and was shining in the sky behind the mountains. And so the lighting matches exactly what was here, and this will be a scene that can be experienced in real life, which again is kind of where I draw my line. So even though I don't do sky replacements very often, it's probably been a couple of years since I've done one, this is a sky replacement. You can see we did have a sunset that night because there is nice soft reflected light on the mountain here, as well as in this area right here. So we do have nice reflected light all over the scene, which is providing nice soft depth. It's not really too contrasty. We do have nice depth based on just a little bit of light. The other thing I liked about this composition is we have a nice kind of line that swoops around here with the river, or creek, I guess, and points at the mountain. I did spend some time brightening up these areas right here, just to make sure that the viewer was led along that line. The other thing that's nice is this area almost acts as a bit of a frame. So this is essentially framing, you know, the mountain in the middle kind of part that I want the viewer to focus on. This beautiful fall color in here, focus on the mountain, you know, the nice creek. And the eye doesn't really wander too far over here or over here. There's a couple of reasons for that, I think. Number one, you have that nice soft light accentuating some of the features in the landscape, especially in this area. So the eye is drawn towards that light already. And I have this tree here, which I debated quite a bit whether or not to keep it or not. I ended up keeping it because I felt like it blocked the viewer from going too far this way. And I like this group of trees here because, again, it keeps the eye from wandering too far this way. So the eye is really pushed up and around into the scene, which is really what I want the focus to be on. So I think compositionally this photo works. However, I'm going to be going back to trying to get a real photograph of what I wanted. This mountain gets nice directional light at sunset. So I wanted to get a photograph where the sun was hitting this mountain so that you did have that natural depth that occurred. So this was post-processed quite a bit to see the depth that you see here. So that's one big negative. It's not necessarily a nice 3-dimensional photograph. While it is, because you have this nice composition that does push the viewer into the photo, the light is not helping the photograph. There is no real, besides the obvious subject of the mountain, there's not that wow moment for the viewer. And so it's a nice photograph, it's a beautiful scene, but I think it stops there. So while it's a nice photograph, I don't think it's a keeper. The second photograph I want to talk you guys through was the second morning. We had a beautiful sunrise at Wedge Pond. Now Wedge Pond is a nice kind of pond that reflects Mount Kidd right here. In the morning, we do see that sun does hit the mountain. Now, the light on here is absolutely spectacular. We get nice light on the mountain. We get a little bit in the clouds on the sides. even some nice reflected light going on in the fall foliage in the foreground. So the cool thing about this kind of photograph is you have that symmetrical balance that happens. So if you've taken my composition e-course, it's free on my website. If you've taken it, you'll know I talk about symmetrical balance being a real tool to help your viewer understand what the subject is. Here we have the light in the mountain. We have the dark clouds above here. Well, that's reflected here. We have dark clouds here, and we have the light on the mountain. So the viewer is really pushed towards that light in the scene because it's happening twice. It doesn't take long for the viewer to understand what the point of this photograph is. It is really about the mountain and the light on the mountain. There's really nothing else going on. So, and essentially, symmetrical balance is a nice way, and quite frankly, an easy way to show your viewer what your subject is. And so there's nothing really going on in this photo that's kind of leading the eye anywhere. It's just a photo about balance, which is kind of cool. Now, this scene, while it's really, really nice, is not necessarily something I'm going to really love down the road, because there's not much else that can be done from this particular location. I did try and grab some abstracts of these trees in the water, but unfortunately they're not quite at the point where you have a lot of fall color. You know, they're still very green here. There's a little bit of fall color here, but it's not necessarily very vibrant or attractive quite yet. So in a week, this would be a very different place. But at this time of the year, at this location, this is about as good a photo as you can probably get. And quite frankly, it's a photograph that absolutely anyone can get. If I had a cell phone, I could have grabbed this photograph. So it's not something that, you know, I'm too excited about, just because it can be replicated very, very easily. So while it's a nice photograph and while it works compositionally, it's not something that I'm super in love with. Now, this third image is one of my favorite images from the trip. It is a waterfall that's fairly secret, and my friend told me about it. He kind of gave me directions where to go. I still don't know if he told me about it to try and get me wet. I'm going to show you a picture of where I had to be to get this photograph. Not very safe, which maybe that's his way of telling me what he thinks about me as a conversation between him and I. But anyway, I like this photograph quite a bit. Now, full disclosure, I did add this light here in post-processing. I felt like the eye had to go somewhere. It's nice that the waterfall is here and the eye does flow up, which is really nice, but it didn't land anywhere. So I added this nice like kind of light here, made it reflect in the trees and all this moss here so that there was a little bit of depth in the scene, because the light we had that day was overcast basically, so there was nice flat light, which does work for this kind of scene, but there's no depth. And so I did add this light so that I could have the depth that I wanted to in this photograph. So what I like about this composition is you have the water flow that's moving you up in quite a few different areas. So everything's moving you towards this waterfall, and then it's up towards, you know, this part of the scene here. The viewer, you know, if they decide, well, I'm going to go left, well, you know, the lines here are all converging towards the waterfall. And it's similar here. The lines converge down to the waterfall. So every part of this photograph is pushing the viewer towards that water and the flow upwards towards that light. So generally this composition is really, really strong. I do like it. There's a couple things that you know, if I could change, I would. I tried. Not much I could do from the location I was. So this rock here, you know, if it wasn't there, I think it's a much better photo. This acts as a little bit of a distraction. I tried darkening it quite a bit, you could see, so that the viewer wasn't necessarily stuck there. So this is something that I probably, you know, if I could get wet and jump in here and go a little bit ahead of it, that's something I would do next time. Just a side note, I would have used a polarizer here. I didn't bring my wide angle polarizer because it adds weight. So that would have eliminated the sheen on this rock, which would have made it darker still. The thing I don't like is these logs here. This one isn't awful because it moves upwards again, which is kind of the flow of visual movement that we're looking for. This is the one I have a problem with, because ultimately as the viewer moves up here, okay, the log acts as a barrier. So because it's going contrary or perpendicular to the visual flow, the viewer can get stuck on this log. Now I did brighten this part of the falls a little bit so that the viewer could kind of skip over it and they didn't get stuck there, but it's still there, and there's not much I can do about that beyond getting up there and removing it completely. So ultimately, I do like the photograph. I like it quite a bit, and it's one of my favorites of the trip. Now, my favorite photo of the trip is this photograph from Larch Valley, and it's a hike that I do recommend a lot of people do. It's really gorgeous in fall when the larches are completely yellow. Any light at all, and they just start glowing. So it doesn't even matter if it's amazing golden light, and this is the middle of the day. Okay, so the smoke from the Oregon wildfires was pretty prevalent that day, so the kind of light that we did get wasn't incredible, but it was just enough to make this photo work. The benefit of that smoke is in the background here, we have, you know, the mountains that are behind Moraine Lake. We have all this haze in front of it. So the benefit there is there's not enough detail and texture to really draw the eye. We can tell that it's a mountain behind there, but it's not like the viewer gets stuck there. There's not enough contrast for the viewer to really go there. They're drawn towards, you know, these bright larches here, and then this area, this ridge is darker, so the eye gets pushed up towards this part of the scene. So really, this is the area right here that the viewer is drawn towards, which is kind of what I was trying to go for, was, you know, these scattered larches on the ridge. And what I like most about this photograph, and why it's my favorite, is because it tells a story. It's a metaphor for something that we might experience in our own lives. And so the idea is this moves upwards. And so we have this lone larch on the right-hand side. He's a little bit worse for wear. He's further ahead, he's further up, he's further along, you can say in life, for example. So he's a little bit worse for wear. And the crowd is behind him. Now they're, you know, they look really pretty, and, you know, they're doing all the Instagram stuff or whatever they're doing. They look really good, but they're also moving this way. And so they're gonna look like this eventually. So I like that story, and I definitely, we sat there for half an hour, 45 minutes, waiting for some light to hit this area just so I can get this photograph. So I do like this photo, and I do recommend anyone go on this hike. It's absolutely jaw-dropping. It's worth checking out. Well, guys, thank you so much for sticking around, watching. I hope you picked up something. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you didn't like it and you're still here, well, I'm surprised, but hit that dislike button and get out of here. If you found these composition kind of wanderings or ideas of mine interesting, I do have a free composition e-course on my website. I'll leave a link for that in the description of the video. Again, it's free, 6 weeks long. We go through some of the different compositional elements and things that can help your photographs become better. Yeah, until the next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Cheers.